Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Belgian Football Podcast. My name's Scott Coyne. I'll be your host for this episode, and joining me this week, as always, everyone's favourite Belgian, around these parts anyway, coming to us live from Belgium this week. It's our very own Mr. Joris Beck. Good evening, Belgium. How are you?
Good evening, Scotland. Everything is fine. All good. I watched the live game in Belgium for the first time in forever. Too long. It had been too long, and it wasn't a Genk game, which late might not be the worst either. That it wasn't for my own mood as well. So as we announced before our slightly unexpected 1 week in between section without episode. I did go to Westerlo Lalouvière, and more on that soon, I guess.
Yep, we're going to get a full match report from the location from our Joris. That's right. He was at Kuipje this past weekend to take in Westerlo 2 RAAL 1, but that was but one game, of course, from Matchday 19. There was a number of others as well. It was a full match card. What happened? Charleroi drew 2 each with Genk, and spoiler alert, everybody, this is going to be a reasonably Genk-heavy episode for the first time in ages, because we've got plenty to get our teeth into with the Genkies. Dender lost 1-0 at home to Standard Liège. Westerlo beat RAAL 2-1, as we know, in front of Joris. Union Saint-Gilloise beat Zulte Waregem 2-0. Club Brugge won the Battle of Flanders in the end with a relatively late winner, 2-1. St. Truden beat Mechelen 1-0 to enhance their playoff 1 credentials. Anderlecht and Antwerp finished 2 apiece. The other way around, actually, at the Bossel. Antwerp and Anderlecht finished 2 apiece. And Leuven lost at home to Cercle Bruges, who got their first win in 15. More on that later. I suppose we should start this week, Joris. Let's dive into your side, Genk, because there's been plenty of news coming out of there in the last few days. Since we last convened for a regular BFP, Torsten Fink has left the building. It'd kind of been coming for a while, to be fair. It'd been rumbling around in the background for a bit. The axe has finally fallen. They've made a change. You do wonder, though, and I'm keen to get your thoughts on this. I wonder whether the fact that Nicky Hayen, who has now been installed, as everyone will know, as the new T1 at Genk, how much does the fact that Club Brugge thought, hang on a minute, we're not playing that well, we need to make a change, factor into this as well? Because Genk haven't been playing badly, but it certainly hasn't been great either. And one big club makes a change to reignite the fire. Is it the case that Genk have done exactly the same here?
Well, I would argue that Genk have been playing badly before, but it's more like topsy-turvy. Like, they have had their peaks and their lows and their valleys in the season so far. But okay. Apart from that, like it might have had to do with that. Obviously, that Hayen now is a manager has to do with that directly. That's clear. I also feel they should have not made the change a lot earlier. To be honest, regardless of the person, Fink, he seems to be like a nice man, and nice and always positive. But yeah, that positivity in those after those worst games, it's maybe the lesser of two evils, nonetheless. That you do that in the media, but for fans, it's not always. Yeah, fans are not as gullible all the time as people hope. Maybe it's sometimes a bit difficult, but I also know, like, they can't really say anything else that would not be worse. So but it's still it was getting a bit irritating, nonetheless. Just if that the carousel for sure has been started when Hayen got sacked by Club Brugge. Then taking managers like Club Brugge, then taking Ivan Leko back as well, of course, and Gent then moving on to Charleroi, picking what I'm presuming also would have been an option for Genk. So that was one option less at that time already as well. Then with Rick Dermil, of course, then I'm assuming in the end it might have to do with that, but also just the results in general were very bad. Yeah, there was a very they were bad. We kind of are in the same, or were at the same in the same situation as we were 3 months ago, where Fink had like a lucky spell basically with a few lucky wins against lower sides, or well, not even lower sides. Obviously, against Intrada, that was quite a lucky win, and they are doing really well. So that was actually, in hindsight, a really good win. But the way it went, yeah, was quite lucky, and like yeah, got a few more points against some sides that you would expect Genk to get some points, so moving up a little bit in the table, but actually not enough. Like I think they've been in the top 6 for like one match day, maybe since maybe in the beginning of the season there might have been a few, but I'm not entirely certain moments where it happened. But like lately, at least once, and then fell out again. And then the results, then also getting kicked out of the cup, a loss in Europe, both results that can happen, but it's again the way it happened a little bit, and then of course in the league also the results were just not getting better. On the contrary, and it seemed like Fink didn't really know the way how to motivate the players, or all of the players, or just at least and get and even when they sit, and they probably did fight for him or try to fight for him on the pitch as well. Like it was clear this was not going to work out anymore. Unfortunately, of course, but yeah. So, short answer, there isn't, but I'm not certain if Hayen's exit at club put everything in motion. It definitely did in the league, though, but I also feel like it should have happened earlier. So it might have played a small role at the end. Of course, that then eventually he did go before Christmas. In the end, yes, but I don't think it's the main factor, because the results on its own were speaking their own words, unfortunately.
Yeah, availability is a big factor now in appointments as well, isn't it? And sometimes timing does kind of work out. I mean, when you look at the other candidates that were in the frame as well for the job, Timmy Simons was in there, who obviously was available. The other name in the mix was Karl Ufkins as well, who's at Breda, who didn't want to leave there at the moment. So, when you look at a coach who is, first of all, obviously Dimitri Deconde was prioritising a Belgian coach, with a lot of experience and knowledge of the landscape in Belgium, understandably, but also a winner. To be slightly kind of cheesy about it, and Nicky obviously has won everything that there is to win in Belgium, so he knows how to do it. He knows how to do it with a top side as well, and also I think what's obviously attractive for Dimitri Deconde is here is somebody who does have a reasonable track record in working with young players. He did very well at Club Next as well before he stepped up unexpectedly. So I think there's a feeling that he has kind of everything from a coaching perspective that they would want. And obviously he's available so that they can move quickly. I think a few things. I think
I have to intervene here, though, because I've from multiple sides. I guess I heard like, was he doing really well at Club Next? He himself got quite lucky that he got the managerial job at Club Brugge when Dyla didn't do so well, because otherwise, he was going to be booted anyway at Club Next. That's at the end of that season, at least. When they got Veldman for the next season, that was already more or less going to happen, regardless of, and the timeline. How it actually happened in the end might be different, but that was supposed to happen anyway. Is what I hear from different sides. Okay, I still take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, but just a little bit of nuance there as well. But of course, he did really well at Club Brugge, of course, and then working with young players is something he has done before. But I'm just just bring the nuance, I guess. A little bit skeptical, but I would have been for. It's nothing personal. It's just like with any manager. Like I'm not even gonna say if it's a good or a bad appointment. We'll have to wait and see anyway. So I'm sure you would have gotten to me there, but hopefully he's a good fit. That's the thing, I guess, and hopefully he can motivate the players again. What think in the end couldn't do enough, or like not even motivate, but like hit the right spots at certain key players, I guess, as well, and make them play and be a bit pragmatic and getting some organization back. But okay, I intervened, so I'll let you get back to your story.
Yeah, it was interesting what you were saying there because I think Nicky being sacked at club, was more to do with the fact that they argued obviously that the fire had gone and they felt that it couldn't be reignited and that they had to make the change. Think is a similar kind of scenario in a way. I think when we go right back towards the end of last season, I suppose we get to the playoffs, don't we? And Genk are flying up to that point. The playoffs then start, and the wheels kind of come off at that point. They lose a few games. They're kind of out of the title race very quickly and unexpectedly, I think. And he was never really able to think this is never really able to turn it around after that. Everything kind of dipped from that moment, and the start of this season, there was never really any momentum. And yeah, I think the fire kind of had gone. You were talking about struggling to maybe motivate some players. Had the dressing room kind of collectively gone? That's a question as well, because I think there were some players kind of out of sorts and just kind of certainly not playing to their potential. Whether it's a motivation issue from the coach's perspective or not, really interesting. Nicky's come in now, no real surprise to us. I think what's interesting about Nicky being at Genk now, Joris, is for those who don't know, he is a local Limburgian. He is from St Truden. He lives in St Truden with the family. And, looking at this a little bit more closely, Nicky's going to be able to stay at home in this job. Obviously, when he was at club, he spent a lot of time travelling, and he wasn't back at the family home necessarily every day or every week. He was staying in Bruges sometimes as well, because Bruges, for those who aren't aware, is certainly if you're driving anyway, Bruges and St Truden are, it's just over a couple of hours away by road in a car anyway, a little bit further in train. So it's not necessarily practical for him to stay at home with the family, whereas he can now do that. And that's going to be interesting here, in terms of the work-life balance thing, I think, which does matter. These things do matter. I know a lot of fans don't think that they do sometimes, but they do. So he's able to stay at home. And obviously he wasn't, what's that? It's less than 2 weeks between being sacked by Bart Verheiger and co. At club and Dimitri Decon picking up the phone and sitting down with Nicky, and it all happened kind of quite quickly, 13 days I think. But his challenge is the same as every coach at Genk. You must try and finish in the top three while at the same time developing players who you're going to lose probably earlier than you want. The player trading model, which is very strong there. The academy is very good. So it's that balance of, basically putting in a title challenge while also developing young players. And Nicky's got this temperament. He's known for being generally very calm. He doesn't tend to rant and rave in any manner at all, really, on the sidelines, unless something unusual happens. And he's very hardworking and diligent as well. And I saw this kind of firsthand when I spent a little bit of time with him. Last time I saw Nicky will be kind of last November. When he brought club to Glasgow to play Celtic. And there was obviously a lot of talk around that game back then around, the atmosphere in a big stadium and a big Champions League night. And I always remember Nicky saying to me around the press conference for that game, you always get noise and narrative around games and situations, but all that matters is the work you do with players and what they do when, they cross the white line. And that kind of always struck me. He's obviously very good at protecting players and just giving them the information that they know. So I think this is an individual we know from his previous work in his CV and kind of talking to him that I can see how he can be good with young players. And he knows what it's like to work at a top club, and a top club who are required to win every game. So I can see why, Genk have picked the phone up very, very quickly here, and how there weren't really any other serious candidates in the short term. In terms of where Genk are at the moment, Joris, I mean, they're aiming for the top three, obviously. They're sitting in seventh. They're just outside playoff one, 2 points away from kind of getting in there. So, the top three might be a bit of a stretch at the moment unless they go on an unbelievable run, but playoff one is definitely there for the taking still. 11 points away at the moment from a top three spot. I suppose, is it possible if, you can reignite the fire?
At this stage of the season, anything is possible, even championship, because this halving of the points is still there. So it's in the end 2 games now, assuming they need to be in a better form as well. So then also assuming they catch on a little and catch up a few points before the playoffs as well, if it works, of course. So that's the question. That's the whole thing. Hopefully it picks up indeed. If not, of course, then not. then that is not possible anymore. But in the assumption that it does, I don't see why not. To be honest, okay, title. I mean, that's we don't need to talk about that at the moment. At the position Genk is in at the moment, just qualifying, I guess, will already now be the first objective, a lowered objective though. So I hope that's only a mean to get to the end of indeed the top 3 still. But they really need to do something there, and hopefully also maybe in Europa League salvage a little more of the season and have some great results there. Still hopeful for that. So short, yes, I do think it's possible, but of course it needs to ignite, of course, and we'll have to see if that really happens. I'm more for Genk. I do feel like, I mean, I'm not completely convinced Hayen is necessarily the top coach yet either, but he did have the results to wait. So from Genk's perspective, I do get why they go for him now. I get it less from his side, except for the part, of course, he wants to keep on being busy, and like you mentioned, I mean, he actually can work a little bit closer from home. So like the work-life balance, if there is any as a manager, I don't really think there is, but okay, it's slightly better nonetheless. Just in general, I do think like he could have waited for, well, maybe later in the season or in the summer, next summer, and then see for offers abroad maybe as well. But we'll see how everything pans out now, of course. But it's more like he's actually taking, well, both, like with everything, of course, it is a risk, anything you take on now. But this is, of course, a risk if it doesn't work out, or if sooner or later as a manager, it's quite likely that even at Club it happened now, it doesn't work out, that what will be his next step or bracket of clubs that he could choose from. But okay, this has become more and more an open conversation, of course. Also, like, if he does really well now this season, still gets the objectives Genk wants, maybe he himself also sees still might get some offers from abroad, of course. Maybe he won't let pass. But yeah, it's also funny how it goes, of course, the whole story. Sorry for that, Scott, but like the whole story with Celtic, and then they went for a different manager, and now they are already looking for maybe another manager in the end. So,
that's an interesting, yeah.
That might have been a bargaining chip for his side, of course, as well, to maybe financially get something more out of it, to get Genk to act faster and then quicker even. But yeah, just
That's a very interesting one. You know, we've been talking a bit about timing and availability, and for those of you who might not know, Nicky Hayen's name was mentioned not too long ago, just a matter of weeks ago, when, as Joris was saying, when Celtic were looking for a new manager, he didn't come to Glasgow in the end. He has stayed in Belgium. It's interesting because I think he did. Nicky was quite honest at the Rome. He was at the Raymond Goethals awards of what, a week, 10 days ago, just a couple of days after being sacked by club, and he was getting asked, obviously incessantly straight away, about where he might go next and when, and a lot of his answers were, I want to take some time, understandably, and then of course the situation changes at Genk very quickly. They get in touch, and you have a very quick decision to make, really. You've got that decision of, do I jump at this because it's another top club in Belgium, and if I do well it enhances my reputation further, or do I wait and take some time out and maybe go to a medium-sized club possibly in Belgium in the short term, and the risks associated with that possibly damaging your career in the short term. So these decisions often have to be made very quickly, as we know, and this one isn't any different. Speaking of managerial changes, we have had another big one that you referenced earlier already since we were last together. Rick de Mille has left Charleroi now, not unexpected. Ivan Leko obviously being whisked away by Club Brugge, much to everyone's surprise and consternation as well, to quite a lot of people. Gent have gone and picked up Rick de Mille, who it feels like he's been a kind of highly sought after coach for kind of forever now. Actually, he's very well respected, Rick, isn't he, Joris? And his stock is generally speaking, well, yeah, it's been rising for kind of quite a while. He's now at a top club. A club he used to watch as a boy. His dad used to take him to the Buffalo's old stadium as well. He does have a lot of Gent supporting family members as well. He talked about that quite a lot at his own press conference, Rick. And this is kind of an interesting one because Rick de Mille's one of those coaches, I think, who has, many people would say, has been destined for a top club for a little while now. Antwerp came calling. It didn't happen. He wanted to go. It couldn't be. It couldn't be reached. Mehdi Bayat played hardball and won that one. Union were interested. He wanted to go there as well. That didn't happen. And at that point, Rick's relationship with Mehdi Bayat, is damaged. There's no doubt about it. Publicly, that's not what they say, but privately, of course, it must have been. He's now got his big move, and it's a big move, but it's a big job for him, I think, isn't it?
Bayat, yes. Not only Mehdi, but also Mogi decides where the mill goes. That was very clear in this whole carousel. Once again, two of his favorite clubs to work with, for sure. So I'm not sure if there's actually much more to that than that, but obviously, yeah. I'm similar as to Hayen. I also have some caveats with the Mill as well. Like, I do feel like he gets a bit too much credit maybe for what he did with Charleroi, because they really had quite some decent players. I think I talked about that a few weeks ago already as well. I'm not beating the Rick de Mille drum as hard as many others. Of course, he's still, the reputation is there. He seems to be working well. He seems to have a good relationship. It's of course also admirable and good to see like someone still that really started really low without an actual professional football career as a player either, and then just rising the steps, not gradually but with some leaps here and there, of course, but only speaks for him, of course, as well. I mean, now indeed at the helm of a arguably bigger club than Charleroi, but like you mentioned, were probably better clubs, better or bigger clubs that were interested before. Not that he could do much about it, as my first part is probably still valid for the whole of this conversation. But yeah, that it does indeed feel like only a small step ahead. and with a lot of pressure and a big task ahead, especially Gent always being a bit in turmoil. It's turmoil, it seems, and like always circling around that fifth, sixth, seventh spot. So yeah, it's like more like slight like sub top maybe, when Charleroi might have been like more, well, like Gent maybe 5 to 7 and Charleroi 8 to 10, and that's like a minor difference if you put it that like the way. Of course, this is a simplification, but this is more or less how you would probably picture a regular season for them from the last few seasons, in that sense. So but yeah, big task ahead, because they want to be more than that, of course, as well. So the ambition is there. Again, this can be a good thing, of course, as well, if he can manage, the group, the players, the squad, and get some results in. Unfortunately for him, he did go off to a bad start with 2 losses. Not against the most easy opponents, obviously, either. I believe it was, well, definitely it was against Club Brugge. I believe last week it was in Antwerp, who are on a better run. So maybe we should actually start talking about him a little bit as well, but maybe not this episode yet. But their managerial change definitely has sorted some things out. At least in the vanity metrics, things everyone can see, the stats as well, that seems to be really have turned for them. But okay, we're gonna let's circle back to Hint, of course, as well. But the mill, off to a bad start, needs to get some results now, of course, because same as with Genk, they really still want to be in that top 6 as well, of course, which they are not at the moment. It's all very close there. They're 1 point behind, no, 2 points behind Genk, who are already not, so like they are for the 6th spot. They are now 4 points behind Standard. That's already a little too much to be comfortable. They really need to get a string of results together, put a string of results together in the upcoming weeks. I do not know exactly what their schedule is, so hopefully and probably after these 2 games, it will be a bit more favorable to them. Against, I guess the next one is against Westerlo, because I saw some advertisements for that as well today still. Because that's what happens when you have to subscribe to a club's account. You get all the mails, and from Westerlo you can get a lot of mails before even before you attended one game. But that's maybe more of a foresight of another conversation that we'll have soon. But yeah. But a lot of pressure. I'm not sure if the Bill is the right person for Hint. I do think it all has to do with Bayat, and maybe hopefully longer term it will work out for them, of course, for all parties there, and they can climb up the table a little bit. But the time is ticking. The clock is ticking already.
Yeah, well, Gent haven't won in 7 now, and they've only had 3 points from 21. I mean, that's not obviously all in Rick's watch, but the form has been plummeting, and I sometimes a couple of defeats early aren't always the end of the world, because from a coach's perspective, that can tell you quite a lot about your players. I think which players are up for it, and which players find 2 back-to-back defeats unacceptable, and it can be a positive thing. But I do wonder whether he's looking at everything now and thinking, geez, this is actually a slightly bigger job than even I'd thought. Obviously, you'll know a lot of these players, you'll know the setup. It's always a bit different when you're on the inside seeing people day to day. Obviously, they need to cut out defensive mistakes. I think they look a bit fragile there. And as he's been saying, they need to be better on the ball. They haven't been good on the ball. I mean, this weekend, the Battle of Flanders, I thought for the most part they were really poor. They were better in the second half, but the first half was just, they just weren't at the races at all. They weren't competing. weren't really doing anything. I think they knew they were going to be in the back foot quite a lot. You're going to Jan Bridal, you're playing club. They are going to have the majority of the ball and have a good go at you. So defensively, they knew they were going to have to be pretty solid, and they really weren't this past weekend. I think both the goals were completely avoidable. I thought they were really poor goals to concede, which makes life even more difficult for you. And they're also not really creating enough at the moment. Admittedly, I think they were missing some big hitters who are going to be important, I think, for Rick. Skoras, who has been actually quite good since he's gone to Genk, obviously suspended. He was unavailable, and
well, he was quite good in his first month. I guess that's also memory fading, I guess, a little bit. So he needs to pick it up for sure as well. But he was. If he's not there, of course, he can't do that. But that was his own fault as well.
Yeah, I find this an interesting one because there's a lot going on at Genk, as always. There always is with the Buffaloes. There's we never reference a quiet, settled period there. There seems to be kind of always something going on, either on or off the pitch, and that hasn't changed. And I think Rick coming in is an interesting one because to me, when you watch him work, he's a very good speaker. And I think he's a very good motivator, and I think tactically he's quite an intelligent coach as well. And this particular job will tell us a lot about him, because the big question around Genk for me is how good is this squad? I mean, I think we all know there's a lot of pretty good individual players in there, but as a squad, as a unit, how much quality is really there, how much depth, and how much they can change it as well. He's come in at a point, I think, in a way which is good for him. I suppose, he's got the second half of the season effectively to work out what he thinks he needs, and that's a good bedding in period. But of course, he will be expected to secure a playoff one spot as well. There are still targets and expectations there, and it kind of feels at the moment that without a change in form, obviously that's slipping away a wee bit from them. So yeah, a lot for him to get his head round early, and a lot to test him with, because the expectations here are going to be very different to what they were at Westerlo and Charleroi as well. So yeah, we're going to find out. I suppose how good is Rick Demel really? The big question around this, is definitely going to be tested here, I think. You've been out on the road. We mentioned this, haven't we? You've been out on the road. You've been to a game.
I may have referenced to it already. Yeah, I might have mentioned it.
Yes, you might have mentioned you were at Het Kuipje, Westerlo 2, RAAL 1. Give us the lowdown. Tell us about your experience, Joris, because for those who don't know, Kuipje is one of the smaller grounds in the top flight. It's one of the more difficult ones to access as well. From a transport perspective, it's not the most accessible stadium. How was your weekend? How was that experience? Because going into this, we thought this might have been a 0-0 draw, but we did get goals.
We did, and I mean, transportation. Their main song is about that they go to the stadium by bike, and in that sense, by bike it's easily accessible as well. So that's definitely something to remember. That's definitely a good option. Also, parking, we went by car. Mate drove us there. That was actually also quite fine and quite close to the stadium. Even though also I did think it also had a little bit to do with it being Christmas period and the holidays starting also for children already. So they had some promotions in action, I believe, as well. It was quite a full stadium. Like, it was not fully full. I think there's 9,000 or 8 or 9,000 people could access there. I would assume maybe 6 or 7,000 might have been there. Which is quite full, quite a full ground. A few things on that. One thing so you can forget anything I say after this sentence, because half a liter of beer for less than €5 is just criminal in these times. So I'll just get the caveat there. Some of my memories might have been a little bit blurred partially because of that. But in general, also the ticket prices were also very democratic for sure. I believe it was around €20 for a ticket, so that's very very affordable for sure for a first division team. Obviously, not a fixture that normally would get a lot of attention either, so that might also play a role. But it looked like like I said, quite a full stadium. The atmosphere actually was quite nice as well, especially in the main stand, which I wasn't there. Sadly, I was a bit closer to the pitch. On the other hand, somehow, like I was texting you guys, I was so close to the pitch. I easily could have gotten a ball in my face, but nowhere near it in the end. So yeah, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I was to this not next to a goal or something. So I guess they didn't shoot that far off. I was on the sidelines. But it was really really quite nice atmosphere from both fan bases as well. Actually, I do believe La Louvière fans had a protest though as well because they only started singing at the 12th minutes. Well, the 13th minute, of course, but like when the stadium clock was running from 12 onwards, 12 minutes onwards. Yeah, I didn't really figure out why, but I'm assuming of the small amount of tickets sold in the for the Westerlo away end, I'm assuming that and that's something many clubs have been doing, but with La Louvière, it's a specific one that's funny because their stadium is even smaller and their away end is even smaller, not bigger, I'm sure, at least, than this one. So I mean, I think that's a good thing from the fans as well. Like they're also going against their own club, or they're very unaware of these circumstances. But I'm assuming they're really just, going against what's going on in their own club there as well. And like trying to get some more away fans everywhere. But okay, all conjecture, like I said, because it's not completely 100%. I didn't read much about it or anything about it, even in the press. That happens when you're in a game between a few smaller sides in the first division as well, I guess. But I'm assuming it was because of that, and if so, then kudos to them actually to do that. In the game itself, I'm sure you're also interested in that. Well, it wasn't great, to be honest. But it had two phases. Westerlo actually started quite well. They also scored really soon, albeit an own goal, but the build up for that goal actually was really well done by the players on the right hand side. Sakamoto, Sayat Manesh, to name a few that were involved in that as well. But yeah, like very strong. La Louvière were nowhere in the first half. They were really, really terrible and couldn't create anything. I actually had an extra eye on Val from La Louvière, the striker. Because he was supposedly already on the radar of bigger clubs in Belgium. The last few transfer windows, especially before he did get an ACL, I guess it was, or like a bigger injury anyway, during his spell at Serrain, of course. And I was, to be honest, I mean, I'm not a scout, and I'm not gonna base it on one game, but I was very, very disappointed with what I saw. Even already in the warm up, he's a very big lad, but he's easily pushed away despite that, and his technique was really nowhere. Also, at least in this in the shooting exercise, obviously warm up doesn't matter much, but also during the game he was actually quite terrible. But then he scored the equalizer, of course, not out of nowhere, because the second half, Louvière really did become a lot better, and Westerlo were nowhere and just defending really well. There was a very last ditch save from La Paz, you might have seen as well already on the socials. Who kept the clean sheet at that time still, but in the end, Val did get his goal. Just an easy header at the back post. Which he did well. And also, I mean, I didn't recall as much about that, not because of anything else, but just because of the game. In the game, maybe I was a bit further away from where they were playing there. So, had a nice action, a few more better controls and one touch play in there in the second half. So he did improve a little, but and I wasn't seeing it, he was a bit of a laughing stock between the group of friends, to be honest, even in this specific game, of course. But of course, then he did equalize with that seemed to be like a big downer on the whole evening for Westerlo, because it was really late on in the game, and Westerlo were, like I said, they didn't really do much in the second half. I believe right before that equalizer, Vasen really missed the sitter as well, a header. That was the one chance that they had created, and that could have killed the game in an easier fashion for them as well. But in the end, actually, the Mebude goal what happened right before my eyes. That was, of course, a really nice finish as well. He had tried one before. That was okay. That was the second time he tried something. So there was another attempt from Westerlo in that second half for sure in the end. But yeah, that in the end, I do feel like it's a deserved victory. But like, yeah, just it was not the best game. Westerlo should have done a bit more in the first half to score. Well, could have scored a few more goals, as we actually have seen this season. Actually, like, they're struggling a little bit with the scoring. Them, it's probably not a surprise that in the end it was an own goal that got them that lead. Even when the build up before was good, but yeah, actually the own goal was probably. It could have been avoided by Maisonneuve. That was a bit too easy. There was not not that much pressure from Westerlo players, so it was actually just a bad assist from Sayat Manish. But in the end, yeah, happy they got it over the line. Yeah, okay. When I'm in a home and in the home end, I will support a little bit for the home team, despite, of course, being quite neutral, especially against those sides here. But yeah, but just for the atmosphere, of course. But yeah, it was really, in the end, it was a really good, nice atmosphere. Game could have been better, but still saw a few goals, quite a few, or at least a few good goals as well. Quite a few chances. Despite it was just very cold as well. That might not have helped much on my own experience, but that's not something they could do much about. So no, everything was really well, and yeah. There was one thing I promised my friends to mention as well. The stadium clock that was kept on running in stoppage time, like as a positive factor. So like it showed 46 minutes, not 45, and then you don't see how much time. Well, you see +1 or +2, but you don't see how much time is had. My friends like that, and I agree that doesn't happen everywhere. So if this is the way to make some more people, yeah, in the footballing world notice that and maybe do something with that. It is actually a nice touch, and the fans at least know, yeah, how far we actually are in the game. Which is not always the case. Yeah, especially since it was actually especially nice now because the game actually started like 1 or 2 minutes late, for no apparent reason, to be honest. but yeah, at least like that would have been another way to try to track time, but that would not have worked in this game. But thanks to that, the clock on the score thanks to the timer, everything worked out on that. So that no complaints there either, for sure. But no, all in all, like really cool experience. Yeah, and then afterwards it was still a really nice evening for me as well, because these prices were still there, of course.
That's right. Yes, good to take advantage of these things, and of course, it's a very different experience being at a game, not on official press duties, being with friends in good social company, where you're able to have a drink. Is good. Is always a good thing.
I also noticed, like, yeah, it does. You sometimes have to go too often during a game as well to like relieve yourself. And actually, that was also starting to become a running gag. Like whenever I had to go, then there was a big chance for one of either sides. And,
that's also a big clue, listeners, into how many beers Joris had in the build up to the game and during it.
Luckily, there were not that many chances. One, in the end, and two, I didn't touch on that the bathroom access is like really fast and easy as well. So I even did see, even if I missed maybe the build up to some things, I did see the big chances itself, because I did go for some quick run-ins. But okay, enough about my lavatory experiences. But yeah, that's definitely the easy access and quick. You could go quickly there, so that's in hospitality in facility sector, that's a good thing, I guess, as
Yep,
well.
and there ends the Belgian bladder report for this week. I noticed. I noticed afterwards, Joris, that Isami Shirai called the win a victory of willpower, which I thought was kind of quite a good quote. But on a serious note, actually, Westerlo's form hasn't been that bad. They've not been getting probably what they deserve, to be fair, for a while now. But they're now undefeated in 5. Couple of wins now, 3 draws, 9 points from their last 15. They're up to 9th. They are only 3 points off a playoff 1 spot, which nobody seriously expects them to achieve come the end of the season. But they're in, by their standards, they're actually in, sitting in a reasonably good position. At the moment, so it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. RAAL, on the other hand, obviously, I think their form is definitely plummeting. 2 points from the last 18, I think they're down to 14th now, and yeah, it's that early season promise after a rocky start, the first couple of weeks or so, seems to be slipping away a little bit at the moment, and they're just they're kind of hanging in games, but don't look like they're necessarily going to pick up too much at the moment.
Yeah, like they're fighting. Like in the first half, it looked like they were already on their holidays. Maybe it's because their fans already started seeing after 12 minutes, but by then it was too late already. Like they couldn't turn it around either. But I want to highlight, I did negatively highlight one player, but that was maybe because my expectations were too high. And I mean, in the end, he did still get a goal. That's still a very big quality as well. But I just expected a bit more foul based on some of his highlight reels as well, and goal reels, actually, where he actually showed quite decent technique. And that didn't really show much in this game. But Gillot, who came on in the second half, actually did make a big difference. Not only this week, actually, like the week we skipped last week, he also was very involved. But whether it's related or not to him being brought in, but like the second half of La Louvière was a lot better, and they won all the duels. They were fighting. They didn't create as much, but at least they were pushing forward. And Westerlo couldn't do anything themselves, or not anything, but like were very, very, very much worse than in the first half. And that thanks to Gillot, who also, I believe, he also got the assist for the goal in the end from them. I think he scored, was it once or twice late on last week as well. Yeah, that's what they seem to do though as well. They hang in. Also in the game against Sultawarium last week, they scored twice in the stoppage times of both halves. Now it was unfortunately for them slightly too early for that. It was close to stoppage time, but there was still enough time for Westerlo to still put them behind and let them lose this game. But yeah, all in all, I don't think many people expected La Louvière to be where they are at the moment at the beginning of the season. But yes, they do need a bit more points. Again, in a win or two, or just one win, maybe in the last few games would have really changed their picture. Now they're dropping down the table a bit, and yeah, they're still in a bit of a difficult situation, I suppose, as well. But they are sitting still in a decent spot for them, and not too far behind many other sides as well, so they can really catch on as well still. But yeah, the last few weeks or maybe months have been a bit more unstable, maybe also defensively. Like I said, that first half they could have gone down a bit more than 1-0 as well. Then usually they're known for their quite decent defense. That is lacking a little bit the last few weeks. Maybe that has to do with still the tempo catching up a little bit from first division now after second division season. Also, of course, the cold and everything, like being going on the season longer and longer, almost winter break, that hunger for that winter break maybe. And like it's more like getting to over the line there to get to that break and recharge and hopefully fire back in the second half of the season, knowing already most of the the regular season is already played after this upcoming weekend, of course, as well. 2/3 already. Yeah, and refocus. But I think they really need to do so, because indeed they need to play like in that second half. But maybe it is also a bit that they don't have much more in their tanks anymore. Then yeah, they 90 minutes consistently playing well or defending as well or with as much grit as before. Yeah, it it's not the most implausible explanation for what is happening there. But yeah, they definitely do need a win soon, just for their own peace of mind, I guess.
They have, of course, as well, recently, just in the last week or so, lost their sporting director, David Vervilgen, who has, of course, for those of you who listen to us regularly and have very good taste, by the way, been a guest on this very podcast in the past. David has left his role as sporting director at RAAL and has now gone to head of scouting at Anderlecht. Good luck to him in his new role as well. So yeah, plenty going on at RAAL, and we'll see how they get on in the next few weeks as well, and see whether after the winter break that re-energizes them as they can come back together, as you were saying.
If I'm not mistaken, he's still there, because I think he takes over in Anderlecht in the middle of January, which is a weird feat on its own a bit, with it being transfer window season.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because I think with these kind of roles, like head of scouting roles, which is where David's going, a lot of the work for the January window, you would imagine, should have been done kind of by now. So I think that's probably kind of part of it as well. But he's also joining as well. He's joining some former colleagues as well, Silvio Proto and Nicolas Frutos. Back in the building at Lotto Park as well, both close colleagues of his at RAAL, of course, from not too long ago as well. So, you know, there's some interesting connections and relationships going on there. It'll be really interesting to see, I think, how he does. You know, how he's able to work with the sporting department at Anderlecht as well, with things seemingly looking a bit more positive in Brussels.
Yeah, it's more for Louvière. Like, what with the players they still wanted to get this window, or want to get this window. Okay, obviously, they're supposedly fishing in a different pond than Anderlecht, but yeah, nonetheless, it's always a bit tricky how this will go.
Yeah, I think
but
you're right. I think
it's just a business thing, of course, but it's difficult to. Yeah, it's just a bit of weird timing.
Yeah, I think it's such an interesting one, that, because, you know, you're right, you're highlighting the risk there. I think the thing with David, and, you know, he was at RAAL for a long time, but there was a lot of positive data work went on there, you know, that he was heavily involved in, because he has a background, and, you know, I think the algorithm that RAAL used as part of the recruitment was something that David was very heavily involved in developing. So I think he will be a loss for them, and it'll be really interesting to see where they go next with that role, and who comes in. Speaking of players, and shining a spotlight on players, we should get round to Player of the Week. Mine doesn't come from the same division, I don't think, as yours this week. Reveal all, Joris. Who is your Player of the Week for Matchday 19?
Yeah, as usual, I've been tinkering a bit. Like, I could do like Ben did last time. He did go to a game in Belgium, and take a player that's played in that game. And I actually already mentioned him. That would have been Gillot. But yeah, I'm still. No, I'll go for a few others names at least, or at least I'll put them out there as well really quickly. Which is Sint-Truiden's Kokubo, was the main reason they did win that game against Mechelen, an important game, of course, as well. And yeah, since, I mean, we need to talk about Sint-Truiden a bit more, I feel a bit still, even when we kind of did last time. But yeah, he really held his clean sheet on his own, and and got the points over the line, and making eventually making it the Sint-Truiden leapfrog Anderlecht to get back into third spot as well, which is just very impressive at this part of the season. And another one is also more for the general topic as well. Of course, you already touched on it, but Gerkes, who scored twice for Cercle Brugge, of course. I didn't watch that either of those games completely, so I have to admit these are mainly the highlights. That are giving me these things. But in Gerkes' case, also just they need goals. They need to come from someone and somewhere, and he did provide them this week. So that's why they did win a game for the first time in 15, as you mentioned at the start of the episode already. And again, we can't highlight how important that is. And yeah, maybe he with those goals even gave his manager a little more time as well. That's like that's one only manager. I guess we're still wondering a little bit like how we made it this far this season, a bit based on the points only, not necessarily on the way they play. I know you're also quite a fan of his, but just based on the points haul as well, that it seemed to become inevitable that he had to go, but this might have given him some more breathing room. Let's hope he did, of course, for him.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in that one. That's another equally interesting one. Honor Sanel still in post, much to kind of everybody's surprise. Again, it's another one of those stories that we've seen with quite a few clubs this season and every season, where the data's good, the data's positive, but you're not getting results, and being a results business. To be cliched about it again, there comes a point where you have to make a decision, and I think everybody's still surprised actually that call, that change didn't come before, but he's still there, and just maybe this will unlock something for them. We're going to find out. Because it didn't look like they were going to ever win another game again. I think you said, was it a couple of weeks ago, you said, something along the lines of they couldn't score to save themselves if they had to. Yeah, well,
if their life depended on it, they couldn't get a goal over the line, over the line.
Right, and
that's still more or less the case, but this game luckily not. And well, touching on their opponent as well, in Leuven, like the Mazu effect is out very, very, very quickly. But first 2, 3, maybe 4 games, it was good, but like since then, everything is petered out already. Again, and they the group is not happy. You can clearly see that as well. So that's the worrying thing for them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, the body language, like I like to talk a lot about, wasn't good. And Felice himself, post match, was not a happy coach. He was pretty angry, and I felt it was one of those ones where sometimes a coach is very frustrated and clearly angry, but they collect themselves before they go on camera and speak to the world. I don't think he really he hadn't quite calmed down yet. I don't think, and it was one of those really interesting ones where you think he could almost say anything here. He wasn't happy, and yeah, you're right. It looks like some of the players are not happy either. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. Yeah. Something similar, of course, happened when Felice was at St Truden. He had a great start, and we thought, "Hello, we're on to something interesting here," but it petered out very quickly. Partly because obviously there were some interesting personalities in that squad who weren't necessarily helpful. You wonder what the issue is with Leuven, but he's going to have to get to grips with that quickly.
One of those personalities might join them, maybe because he's free now. So like we said, we were talking about that scene, and of course he has since our last recording has been released by them as well. So I guess, well, I'm not sure if he's allowed to sign now, but in January he should be able to sign in it anywhere he wants. But also like touching more on that game again as well. Like he got platings off after 20 minutes or so, I guess, which you obviously can do, but it's not going to help him necessarily because Kate Platings, of course, is their captain as well. So we got their captain off after 20 minutes. That's a risky move. That's a risky, unusual move, and that can work both ways, as most things, of course. But like in this game, it didn't pan out for sure. So let's see how this will go further in the longer term.
Yeah, I think you talked about longer term there. I think in the shorter term, Felice will probably be delighted that there's a winter break coming up, after the next round of fixtures this weekend, because I think they need it to just refocus and sort some stuff out after that. My player of the week is actually comes from the Challenger Pro League, which is good because it gives me a segue into where we're going next. We do like a segue. That player, my player of the week, is Beverin's 25-year-old Curacao winger, Yerl Margarita, who has been quite good on the whole for Beverin this season, but was really good this weekend. A goal and an assist. Created 3 or 4 really good chances as well. 3 shots on target. Just, when you're looking at outputs and impact on games, pace, power, goals, assists, he kind of, he was ticking everything this weekend, really. And I think a player who probably could take a step up to the Pro League. The bigger question is whether he will do that with Beverin, of course. At the moment, he's definitely on course to do that. They are still the team to catch, still flying, but he was really good this weekend. What else happened in the Challenger this weekend? Well, Young Gent beat Serang 3-1. Lommel beat Lierse 4-3. 7-goal thriller there. We obviously like to see that. You got your money's worth if you were at that game. Frank Baran beat Club Next 1-0. Beverin were very impressive this weekend. Went great in the first half. Went in 2-0 down at half time. Came out in the second half and sorted that out, ended up winning 4-2. Kortrijk hammered Anderlecht Futures 5-2. Lokeren and Patro finished 1 apiece. Molenbeek lost 3-0 in Brussels to RFC Liège, and Eupen and Olympic Charleroi finished 2 apiece. There's been some quite interesting bits of news coming out of the CPL since we were last together, Joris, because Eupen have now got new owners. Still Qatari-based owners. It's no longer the Aspire Group. They have sold the club to the owners of PSG, Qatari Sports Investment, QSI. For those of you who don't know, it probably slipped under the radar a little bit unless you pay close attention to what's going on in Belgium. And they've also got a new sporting director at the Keerweg as well. The former head of academy and head of scouting at PSG as well. So they've brought in an in-house man. Be interesting to see how that goes and what sort of recruitment model they go down up in there. But yeah, that's a kind of big bit of CPL news since we were last together. Probably should touch on Lommel briefly as well, because they've been on quite a good run of form, 4 wins in their last 5. Big shout out to their 36-year-old striker, Ralph Suntjens, who's got, I think, 11 and 18, but 7 in his last 5. He's flying under the radar at this level, enjoying himself at the moment. And as I was saying, Beverin, pretty impressive this weekend, coming from 2 down to win 4-2, and it's beginning to feel like just a matter of time for them now. I don't want to jinx them in any way at all, but it really does look like that.
Yeah, there's definitely a few things to mention there, of course. To come back to the Eupen thing, yeah, the links are not completely new as well, of course. Eupen already, even when they were still in the Jupiler Pro League, I guess they were even hiring some players, loaning some players already from PSG. So I'm sure there were already links, but going back to the more sportive things as well, like together with Lommel being on a good run of form now, Beerschot have fallen off a cliff. Like, yes, you were talking the side here that were leading and looked like they might give Beveren their first defeat of the season, league defeat of the season. But of course, Beveren turned that around, and now Beerschot have lost five on the bounce, including a cup one. So that one, I guess they're okay with. But yeah, the consequence of Beerschot losing 4 in the league in a row, in 4 consecutive games, and Lommel doing really well in those games. And not only Lommel, also other teams are creeping closer. But means Lommel is now only 1 point behind Beerschot, who before that streak still seemed like, okay, they might be able to upset one of the 2 sides that are running away from them in Kortrijk and Beveren especially. That there's no talk about that anymore, of course. Like they do, like, I guess they can't forget to get they're 9 points behind Kortrijk now. I think they can forget to try to go for automatic promotion, and now they really have to fear even for their spots in the in the top three, and so the playoff, playoff spot for the getting maybe in the first division next season, because they they're only 1 point ahead of Lommel, 3 ahead of Eupen now. And then like Luck and Pato Essen are also not far away, only 1 point more. So all of them are actually still in the running for that. So that's for that third spot. And anyway, I believe there is a playoff for that spot. So like this is really very very narrow. I guess we can also still touch on one more thing. We probably can touch on every week we talk about the Challenger Pro League, but Stan and Pato as showed their good side again this weekend. In the last few weeks, there's some more shenanigans going on there. Stan, I think he probably is the person with most cards in the whole Pro League in Belgium for sure. Maybe far aside of it, which is quite a impressive feat as a manager. But the match reports are again a bit interesting. Like apparently was hiding in the dressing room and closing the door, so he couldn't get his second yellow card. He still couldn't get his red card until eventually he did get out and got his second red. Well, he did get that red card. I'm not entirely, given the whole history, and I haven't completely followed the whole stories. I'm not entirely certain if this is about a recent fact or something that happened in weeks prior. That could have been an old story, but it's just too good to not mention it. But of course, also in this game, in the game that they had against Lokeren, I guess it was, they scored a penalty, and then it's probably it's difficult to see, but like they scored the penalty and then they kicked the ball in the face of a Lokeren player and got a red card for that as well. So like it's never boring with Pato, you can say that, but not in a good way. Not in a good way at all.
Yeah, I think we could. I think we could have a spin-off podcast just to cover the antics that go on at Patro Eisden. Probably we call it Steinwatch or something like that. And there's that many stories about him almost every week now that you don't know, as you were saying, you don't know whether the story is a detail from the latest one or from something that happened, weeks ago. It's absolutely never dull. Speaking of never being dull, and us talking about the Challenger Pro League, we should big shout out this week in our mini BFP AFCON roundup, because of course AFCON is on at the moment, Joris. There are, I think, 15 or 16 players from across Belgium taking part in the tournament at the moment. Big shout out already to Frank Moran's goalkeeper, Yannick Pandor, who of course is from Comoros. Saved a penalty in the opening game of the tournament against one of the hot favourites, Morocco. So the CPL is already creating headlines at AFCON in the early days, and we will on a week by week basis. We'll keep you up to date with how the Belgian based players are doing at AFCON. But yeah, Yannick Pandor is already made the BFK mini AFCON blackboard. He's got a tick on that already.
For sure, yes. And also, I feel like this week we can talk about the Challenger Pro League for quite some time, because there were quite some interesting games. And well, they already have their winter break, so we're not certain, I guess, at this point in time if we will have an episode next week, but we'll try our best to do so. But yeah, but the games this week, like you said, it were the round already from Beerschot, Beveren against Beerschot. Yeah, you mentioned Kortrijk battering the RSA Futures, but actually it was 2-2 until very late in the game. Then they scored 3 times, 2 of them in stoppage time. So that then the Lommel game and Lierse Lommel game 4-3, like you mentioned, things are happening. Charleroi got a point again, so they're not. Well, they actually caught Seraing now. Okay, I think they're still behind them based on games played, or on some criteria. But in points they got them. Well, they also have one more game played than Seraing at the moment. That might also be a reason. But yeah, things are happening, of course. And also Molenbeek, another thing we have to mention, I guess. In like, what's going to happen with them? Will they be able to survive? That's really the biggest question mark, I guess. They have to pay 1.5 million extra for how is the player called again? Nwakama something in that genre, like the player that they bought between quotation marks from for Lyon actually, but because he now featured enough times in Lyon's first team, I think it is, or anywhere where featured enough wherever he is, they have to pay more of a bonus of 1.5 million, and they already were struggling. Well, they already are struggling to pay their own salaries and debts. So we'll have to see if Textor, like he seems to have been doing, well, he has done in the past, without looking more at the club, but that he still writes the check that might set them free for another while until the shit hits the fan again. But yeah, it's really interesting. Then curious what will happen there. And yeah, of course that also puts some more weight on Charleroi, Olympique Charleroi, getting some points and then like catching some sides by now. Yeah, because of course this could have an immediate effect as well on who is going down. Well, if I'm not mistaken, actually I didn't dive into the regulations again because I guess sometimes it happens like when it's this, if something bad like this were to happen, it might not have an effect on the sportive goings. But I didn't deep dive into that, but I'm assuming it might have an effect on that. If well, hopefully I won't have to dive into these regulations in the future. That's in the future in general for sure, but also in the upcoming future soon. But yeah, it's been mad actually. The last week or weeks of the Challenger Pro League before the winter break.
It has, and you mentioned the kind of chaos going on at Molenbeek, which has been going on for a long time, kind of under the radar to a certain extent. But they also sacked their T1 as well since we're last together. Frederick Franz has been dispatched. He wasn't doing that well anyway, but he's a well liked figure actually in Belgian football circles. Quite well respected. Frederick Franz early in his coaching career. We wish him well, see wherever he goes next. But yeah, they've made a change in the hope that it'll change their fortunes on the pitch, and there's certainly no sign of that yet. But yeah, lots of goals this weekend in the Challenger Pro League, and it's top of the table aside, which Beveren, as I was saying, look to be kind of cruising now. It feels like a matter of time. The rest of the league is becoming really, really interesting. Jonas de Rock as well, much like Felix Mazu. Looking forward, I think, very, very much to the winter break. And kind of getting the collective together and recharging their batteries. They're another side that needs some relief and some time together. And it was interesting to hear Joris actually saying that this week. He's like, right, we can go on holiday now and focus on working some of the things that we can't normally during the week. But yeah, always plenty happening down in that division, and it's always a joy to take in one of those games where you get an opportunity. So do get along to one if you can. Well, that's just about it this week, Joris. Another week in Belgian football. I hope, seeing as this is a slightly festive episode, if you're listening to this pre-Christmas, I hope Santa was good to you. I hope Santa's going to be good to you, Joris, over the next few days.
I hope so too. I hope I've been nice enough this year to deserve that. But I most likely, as usual, I haven't. But I wish the same to you, or something better than in that case for you, for sure. And and to all the listeners as well, of course. I'm presuming, it might get tight when the episode will go live. It might also, depending on where you are, if the 24th or the 25th is a more important date for you as well. Or you don't even celebrate it at this time of year. Of course, that's also still possible. But then in a few weeks' time, for example, you can still celebrate. Okay, that was way too much. Like, happy holidays, everyone, and enjoy. I hope everyone has a great one on that as well, and can celebrate. And everyone's healthy and everything goes well for another year of the Belgian Football Podcast.
Absolutely. And if you do like what we're doing here, and plenty of you do, new people are finding us all the time, please do consider leaving us a little review on your podcast platform of choice. Equally, you can leave a small or a not so small donation at our Buy Me a Coffee account, which goes a small way to meeting some of our production costs here at the BFP. Equally, you can find both me and Joris and our Ben, who will return. Ben will be back in the new year. He'll tell you a lot more about why he's been away for the last few weeks when he rejoins us, and the full Trident is back. That will be happening at some point in the not too distant future.
And spoiler alert, with or without, okay, that takes away the spoiler maybe, but with or without a small report of the AFCON live even. Well, not live. Okay, that's the next. I should shut up. I'm teasing too much. It's also not as live as it is, but he might have some reports. He might have some reports on the AFCON a bit more direct than we could ever do.
That's right. Our Ben may or may not be at AFCON, everybody. The answer to that will be revealed in due course. As Joris was saying, have a great holiday, everybody. Hope Santa is good to you wherever you are. Look after yourself. Have a great time with friends and family. And we will speak to you soon on another episode of the Belgian Football Podcast.